Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Kalopa Mission Control Podcast. I am your host, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome you back to our quiet corner of the maritime world. Whether you are listening to this while watching the morning mist roll off a quiet harbour, or perhaps navigating the concrete canyons of a bustling city, I invite you to take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. In a world that insists on moving at a frantic, breathless pace, this podcast is designed to be a sanctuary. Here, we measure time not by the ticking of a clock, but by the rhythmic, eternal swell of the tides. We gather to track the meticulous progress of Kalopa Robotics and to marvel at the vast, breathing expanse of our blue planet. If you were to glance at our mission control telemetry screens today, you would find them peaceful and dark. We currently have no boats at sea. Our fleet of autonomous surface vessels has been safely recovered and rests quietly in the workshop. They are dry, they are secure, and they are currently surrounded by the familiar scents of marine epoxy, soldering iron rosin, and the faint, lingering memory of ocean salt. While our boats undergo their refits and upgrades, we are granted a precious opportunity to step back. Without the immediate pressing data of wind speed and rudder angles to interpret, we can cast our gaze wider. We can look at the overarching currents of marine science, the shifting landscapes of international ocean policy, and the profound reasons why we build these robotic sentinels in the first place. We humans have a deep-seated desire to draw lines. We look at a map, we trace a boundary with a pen, and we declare a space to be a sanctuary. Recently, the United Nations Environment Programme announced a truly historic milestone. For the first time in human history, just over 10% of the global ocean has been officially designated as protected or conserved. In the past 2 years alone, the international community has protected roughly 5 million square kilometres of ocean, an area larger than the entire European Union. It is a monumental achievement, a testament to the hard work of policymakers, scientists, and coastal communities around the globe. Yet, as any oceanographer will gently remind you, the sea does not care about our maps. The ocean is in a state of perpetual fluid motion. You cannot build a fence in the water. This reality was brought into sharp, sobering focus by a recent extensive study conducted by the Wildlife Conservation Society and the University of Queensland. Researchers evaluated over 16,000 marine protected areas worldwide. What they found challenges the very foundation of how we measure conservation success. Nearly 3/4 of the world's marine protected areas are significantly polluted by human sewage. In the tropical ocean regions, the vital nurseries of our planet that house delicate coral reefs and seagrass meadows, the numbers are even more distressing. Up to 92% of these protected areas are contaminated. In many cases, the levels of wastewater pollution inside these so-called sanctuaries are 10 times higher than in the surrounding unprotected waters. It is a profound paradox. We have drawn a protective circle around a fragile coral reef to stop industrial fishing, but we have left the back door wide open to the rivers and estuaries that carry agricultural runoff and untreated wastewater from the land. Wastewater carries heavy loads of nitrogen, pathogens, and chemicals. When this cocktail washes over a coral reef, it fuels explosive, harmful algal blooms that block out the sunlight. It weakens the coral's immune system, leaving it vulnerable to disease and entirely unequipped to survive the marine heat waves brought on by climate change. This data reveals a hard truth about our global push to protect 30% of the ocean by the year 2030. If we merely chase acreage, if we simply draw larger and larger boxes on our nautical charts, without addressing the water quality flowing into them, we risk creating a vast network of paper parks. These are places that are protected in name only, while the fish, the corals, and the seagrasses within them slowly suffocate. True marine protection cannot stop at the shoreline. It must reach upstream, acknowledging that the health of the ocean is inextricably tied to how we live upon the land. This disconnect between the lines we draw and the reality of the ecosystem extends far beyond our coastlines. It reaches down into the darkest, most remote corners of our planet. If you travel to the middle of the Pacific Ocean, the east between Mexico and Hawaii, and descend through the water column for nearly 3 miles, you will reach the abyssal plain of the Clarion-Clipperton Zone. It is a world of crushing pressure, near freezing temperatures, and absolute eternal darkness. Scattered across the soft sediment of this deep sea floor are millions of potato-sized spheres known as polymetallic nodules. These nodules are geological miracles. They begin as a single microscopic speck of sand, a shark's tooth, or perhaps a fragment of shell. Over millions of years, trace amounts of metals from the seawater, manganese, iron, cobalt, nickel and copper, precipitate and cling to this core, building up layer by microscopic layer. Today, these nodules are at the centre of a fierce global debate. The metals they contain are highly sought after for the batteries required in our transition to clean energy. A burgeoning seabed mining industry is eager to send massive robotic machines down to the abyssal plain to scrape these nodules from the ocean floor. Recently, the International Seabed Authority, the United Nations body tasked with managing the deep sea, concluded a 2-week negotiation in Jamaica. The talks ended in a stalemate. The mining industry is pushing hard for a regulatory code that would allow commercial extraction to begin, while a growing coalition of over 40 nations, backed by hundreds of marine scientists, is calling for a strict moratorium. The concern is not merely the removal of the nodules, which themselves serve as the only hard anchors for deep-sea sponges and ancient corals to grow upon. The greater fear is the collateral damage. Giant mining machines would churn up the soft, ancient sediment of the seafloor, creating massive underwater dust storms. These sediment plumes could travel for hundreds of miles on deep ocean currents, creating a kind of marine smog. For the bizarre, beautiful creatures of the deep, many of which use delicate bioluminescence to communicate, hunt and find mates, this smog could be devastating. Furthermore, the wastewater pumped back into the sea after the nodules are hauled to the surface could carry trace metals into the mid-water column, clogging the delicate filtering apparatus of jellyfish and disrupting the fundamental base of the oceanic food web. We are standing on the precipice of industrializing an ecosystem that we have barely begun to understand. As one marine biologist aptly put it, it is a profound shame to destroy something before we have even had the chance to name it. When we look at the monumental challenges facing our oceans, from tracking the silent, creeping threat of sewage pollution in coastal reserves to monitoring the pristine, untouched waters above the deep sea nodules of the Pacific, the question of scale becomes overwhelming. We simply do not have enough research ships, nor the vast budgets required to keep them at sea, to monitor the health of the entire blue planet. This is the exact problem that autonomous robotic sailing is designed to solve. At Kalopa, our focus is on the 2.4-metre autonomous sailboat. It is a vessel small enough to fit in the back of a standard transit van, yet robust enough to survive the most violent conditions the ocean can conjure. The development of this technology owes a great debt to the Microtransat challenge. For those unfamiliar, the Microtransat is a friendly yet notoriously unforgiving transatlantic race for fully autonomous boats. It has been running for well over a decade, aiming to stimulate innovation through competition. Teams from universities, research institutes, and private garages around the world have attempted to send their robotic vessels across the Atlantic. The history of the Microtransat is a beautiful, humbling chronicle of engineering trial and error. Boats have been dismasted by rogue waves. They have been snagged in the nets of unsuspecting fishing trawlers. They have suffered catastrophic electrical failures in the crushing humidity of the doldrums, and their rudders have been fouled by thick mats of sargassum weed. But every failure has been a lesson. Through years of incremental improvements in solar power management, robust sail actuation, and intelligent weather routing algorithms, the industry has matured. The boats we build today are the direct descendants of those early brave prototypes. Imagine, for a moment, the potential of a fleet of these small, silent vessels. Let us return to the problem of our polluted marine protected areas. A 2.4-metre Kalopa boat, powered entirely by the wind and the sun, could be deployed to patrol the perimeter of a coastal sanctuary. Emitting zero carbon and making no noise, it could sail back and forth across the boundary line for months on end. Equipped with advanced miniaturized mass spectrometry sensors, it could continuously sample the water, detecting the exact chemical signature of agricultural runoff or human wastewater. It could map the invisible plumes of nitrogen as they flow from a river mouth into a coral reef, providing local authorities with the precise real-time data they need to trace the pollution back to its source on land. Or consider the newly established High Seas Treaty. If the international community successfully designates a massive sanctuary in the convergence zone off the coast of West Africa, a place where the cold Canary Current meets the warm Guinea Current, creating a spectacular bloom of life, how will they police it? A traditional naval patrol is prohibitively expensive, but a network of autonomous sailboats could maintain a constant, vigilant presence. Fitted with passive acoustic hydrophones, our boats could listen to the distinctive underwater acoustic signatures of ship engines. They could differentiate between the rhythmic slow thrum of a passing cargo freighter and the high-revving strained whine of a pelagic trawler pulling a heavy net through a restricted zone. The boat's onboard computer would process this audio using machine learning, and upon detecting illegal activity, instantly beam the coordinates via satellite to regional enforcement agencies. They could even assist in monitoring the deep sea. While our boats sail on the surface, they can serve as vital communication relays. They could loiter above a deep sea ecosystem, receiving acoustic data from sensors anchored to the abyssal plane and transmitting that data to the cloud. They are the mobile, tireless nodes in a new nervous system for the ocean. To build a machine capable of this requires a deep, abiding respect for the maritime environment. You cannot conquer the ocean with brute force. It will always win. Instead, you must design a vessel that works in harmony with the elements. Our engineers spend their days obsessing over the aerodynamics of a rigid wing sail, ensuring it provides maximum thrust in a gentle breeze while allowing the wind to spill harmlessly away during a gale. They meticulously waterproof every electronic connection, knowing that the corrosive bite of salt water is relentless and unforgiving. They write code that teaches a machine patience, the ability to power down and drift quietly when the wind dies, conserving its precious battery life until the breeze returns. It is painstaking, often unglamorous work, but it is driven by a profound sense of purpose. The ocean is not merely a resource to be extracted, nor an empty void to be crossed. It is the life support system of our planet. It provides every second breath we take. It regulates our climate, and it houses a diversity of life that borders on the miraculous, from the majestic, migrating blue whales to the tiny, brilliant polyps building reefs in the dark. As the laws governing our oceans evolve, and as the threats against them multiply, we must evolve our methods of stewardship. We can no longer afford to be blind to the impacts of our actions, whether they occur in the shallow estuaries of our coastlines or the crushing depths of the abyssal plain. So, while our workshop remains quiet today, the work is far from paused. We are refining, we are testing, and we are preparing. Because when the time comes to launch our next vessel, we know that it carries more than just microchips and solar panels. It carries our collective commitment to watch over the waters that sustain us all. Thank you for sharing this time with me today. If you have enjoyed our exploration of marine conservation and the robotic technology we build to support it, please consider subscribing to the Kalopa Mission Control Podcast on your favorite platform. And if you know someone who feels that same inescapable pull toward the sea, I would be grateful if you shared this episode with them. Until we meet again, may your horizons be clear, the wind be fair, and the seas be kind. Goodbye for now.